Hello and welcome to the Addicts podcast. I'm your host, Jamar. Today is episode 79, and we're going to be interviewing Stephanie C. How are you doing, Stephanie?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Looking forward to this meeting. I was saying before what a great smile you have. So I'm sure our listeners and people watching, I should say, will like that. So let's dive in and get the party started. Let's tell me or tell whoever's listening about growing up.
Growing up. Wow.
Yep,
Isn't that the root cause of all our addictions? No, I'm kidding.
exactly. You gotta find that out.
Yeah. So I think the older I get, and of course, absolutely going through recovery helped me analyze my childhood, what type of person I was and why and how it all started. And let me see. I remember when I had an assessment done for me for by my first alcohol counselor. I think I was on my third DUI, and he finally did an evaluation, and he said I could tell you about you without you telling me anything just by this evaluation. And he said, so you had an absent parent. Well, you only had one parent present, and I was like, yeah, no, that's not true. So you're wrong. Both parents were there. They were there. Um, but I remember it brought out some stuff. And I remember my dad working graveyard shift, and I would only see him for just a little bit. And then when I asked my mom, she said, no, that's funny because you were the one that saw them both out of your brother and sister and the most. And I was like, no, I don't remember him. And I started thinking about it, and I was like, I remember I was afraid. I was so shy, like this scary man, and I was like, I have to talk to him. And it was so like just I was just like a really shy kid, and I didn't like talking a lot, and I used to talk to myself a lot. I have an older brother, older sister. We're each 2 years apart. My sister's the oldest. So I remember just always naturally wanting to be like this strong kid. I always liked following my brother, and I was always wanted to be tough and
Hmm.
I can do it. No, I don't need help. I got this. And I just was a total tomboy, took after him. Um, as far as like having a stern fist, I mean, beyond, my dad was very, very, very stern with us.
How so?
He he was one of those parents that could just look at you and you're ready to cry, like, please just hit me. Stop
Huh.
looking at me. Just one of those looks. And I noticed it not until I had my own children, and I noticed that I took after both of them. And someone had told me, when I hear you scold your kids, I hear your father. And the phrases he uses and the verbiage he uses, and just that stern, like, I was a single parent, so I was like, well, kind of, I got to be the dad and the mom. And with my mom and dad both, they didn't tell us they loved us a lot. They didn't hug us a lot, kiss us. We never had any of that going on. So it affected me a lot. It affected me on my communication and expressing my love. And the older I got and the relationships I explored, I didn't know how to tell people how I felt. I didn't know how to tell people I cared about them, that I loved them, or hey, I really like you, or I remember my first relationship, and he told me, and it hit me so hard. He said, every day I see you, I feel like I have to get to know you all over again. We've been together for months, and you act like you're so uncomfortable, like you're just meeting me for the first time. And it was so true. I was terrified. Every day I saw him, I was terrified. I was like, oh my God, I have to get comfortable again. And I'm going to have to hug him and all this stuff. And it was just so uncomfortable. I was very insecure with myself. I tell people all the time I had the shape of a man's body. I was like square, and I was this chubby kid. I used to lift weights with my dad and my brother in the garage all the time, and I loved it. I loved lifting weights, and I just loved, yes, I'm strong. I could do this. And I always had like this awkward body and this awkward shape. And the older I got, just the more insecure I became. And I was teased a lot. I was made fun of. I was made to feel insecure about my body, my
By who?
legs. I think everyone, my sister, she was like complete opposite of me, and we shared a room. So you can imagine that was hell. We hated each other. I hated
Aw.
her. She used to call me fat. She'd be like, "Oh, you're fat." I was wearing like the same size clothes as her, and she was 4 years older. She was already going to high school, and I was barely getting to 6th grade. And she was just like, "Oh my God, you're fat." I was always getting put on a diet. Like my mom and her both would be like, I don't know why you're just, you can't lose weight. I don't know why you're just so big." And I loved eating, and I would take comfort in eating. I found out later, like, hey, I have a food addiction. Cool. Okay. I'm just a classic addict over here.
I
I've
was
got
about to
every,
ask, that was my next question is, do you think that was your first? For me,
yeah, yeah,
that was my first addiction. Somebody asked me
yes.
that once and I said cookies, Chips Ahoy.
Hmm.
And all that happened was when I ate it, I felt better. So I said, if I eat more, I'll
Yeah.
feel better again. And let me eat more and I'll feel better again. And next
Hmm.
thing you know, I'm eating a whole sleeve of Chips Ahoy and I'm 8 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. That was me. That was me. My brother did the same. We love food. We learned to cook very early. My parents both went to work, and my brother was the first one that got in the kitchen and actually, started cooking. And I was like, man, I'm sticking with this guy. He knows how to cook. So we just ate together, even today, like we bond with our eating. I became vegan the last few years. So now it's kind of rough. He makes fun of me. But yeah, looking back, everyone at the beginning of my recovery was like, no, I think, your main addiction is alcohol. And then the more I learned about myself and the more I went on, and I was like, no, also have a food addiction. When I stopped drinking alone in the first 3 months, I gained at least 30 pounds because I was like, okay, can't drink. I guess I'll be eating a lot. And I was binge eating back and forth with that. And then I think not until I started working with the trainer, and I still tried to, like after I worked with her and she got me on this plan and she taught me, relationship. How do you feel about it when you even eat? Think about how you feel. Like, are you doing it to eat, to satisfy yourself, to taste the food? What are you doing it for? And I really focused and concentrated on that. And I hadn't binged at all after working with her. And then I want to say not until it's another thing about me. I lost my 20-year-old son to fentanyl poisoning November of 2020, and it had been years in between of no binging. I knew I didn't want to drink. I was like, nope, I'm just gonna feel worse. So I took to food, and Jesus, DoorDash was well in effect, and I just started eating again. And yeah, just DoorDash was like, had that thing not existed.
And the one thing is, I say this all the time. I might have even said it on the show before. Food is something, unfortunately, versus any other addiction, you have to do it. You can't say, "Oh, I'm just not going to eat anymore. I'm going to
Yeah,
abstain." You have to eat.
right,
You don't have to do drugs. You don't have to drink to
right.
live, but you have to eat to literally live.
Yeah. So you got to learn how to control that. So that's
Three
always
times,
fun.
it's supposed to be 3 times a day. You got to try to really, really control it. If you don't realize, for us addicts, it's so easy to go bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I agree 100%. Yeah.
So what was high school like for you? You said it was kind of, you were the awkward kid.
Yeah. And, I never fit in. Same thing. Like I went to high school and my brother was a year above me. So he was always a stone kid. He was always cutting class, this and that, he went first and third period, then took off for work, and then he got the easy way out. And then me, I think, because I was always super, super smart, so smart. I had the memory sharp as a tack. I didn't have to study for tests. I would look at the material like that morning of, and then I'd go through an ACE test, and I just have like this crazy memory, and it just came easy to me. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, easy, done. A, B, whatever, no problem. So when I got to high school, I think that I was too smart for my own good because I began using both weed and meth when I turned 16. So that was like the end of my sophomore year.
Well,
And
let's take a step back there real quick. Who was the first person you were used with, and how did it come about? What was that situation?
it was my birthday. It was my 16th birthday. One of my best friends And I had gone to school with her since junior high. And I think I know we prepped about it, you know, what do you want to do for your birthday? Hey, you know, I want to try weed. Yeah, I want to get high. And, you know, we were both those same kind of influences that one of us would get a dumb idea and the other would say, yeah, let's do it. Neither of us was, you know what I mean? That kid where the parents blame me and my parents blame her and it's her, they're the bad. I'm like, no, we just influence each other. Yeah, we got the weed somehow. We went across the street from the school. We found someone who had an abandoned house and we smoked weed. We got high. I want to say we even drank. And then exactly a week later, that quickly, I said, or someone brought it about like, hey, you know, you want to try some meth? And I was like, yeah, cool, let's try it. Same place, same people. Went, got high, and then I just immediately, I loved the way it made me feel. I loved that I could go fast and I had endless energy and didn't want to eat. And I was just like, yes, this is my thing. Who wants to smoke weed? You can do this, you know. I'm always been that way. I want to have energy. I want to be, you know, on the go. I have so much to do and I just want to, you know, go with it. And I think after that, I kind of, you know, became obsessed with it. It wasn't the easiest to get a hold of. So I'd spend all my time thinking about it, trying to get it and who we could get it from. But then in between, I had to do school, but school wasn't necessary for me ever because I was just that kid that was like, I already know all this. Whatever, I don't have to pay attention to class. Just give me the work. Fine, I'll do it. You know, on my way to class, doing homework, on my way to class, writing essays. It just came so natural to me. I was just always a deep critical thinker. Essays, especially, just writing my thoughts and feeling. I loved writing stories and putting books together and stuff. I was always, you know, excelling in my English classes. I was always articulate with everyone. And then so when it came to cutting class, it was just a breeze. And then it made it harder for my parents because if they would get a notice or they would hear something or they'd see like a bad grade or something was missing, they'd be like, no, that's not Stephanie. She's good in school, you know, she's the smart one. She's the good kid. And I was just like, yeah, that's me, sure. Went along
Had
with
them
it.
fooled.
Yeah. Didn't have to lie because they gave me the lie. So it made it easy. And, you
Do you
know,
remember exactly who you were able to get it from? Because like you said, that's hard to get it for a 16-year-old, especially.
I do. He actually ended up being one of my brother's friends, not close, but he was the same year, I think, as my brother. So like a year over me. And then there was just kids doing it. There was just, you know, people, and then they knew people who knew people. And then after that, I think we just kind of found a regular hookup, you know, just asking word of mouth. And then we'd make friends and yeah, come to our place after school, you know, yeah, we could get it for you. Yeah. And it wasn't that hard after that. Junior year, same thing. It was kind of a breeze. I kind of just zoomed on through it. My senior year, same thing. I had like, I don't know, 3 open periods. I ended up graduating with extra credits. I had my first boyfriend at 17. He was like 9 years older than me.
Wow. How did you meet him?
So since I was so into school, me and my friend, the same friend that I got high with, we used to go to summer school for fun. We used to take extra classes. We take like PE class, psychology class, and we would go to the local college and just take all kinds of classes. Let's take that math class. Let's take trig again, just to make sure we understood it. And we were out having a good time. Just that was a good time. We'd be on the bus, just traveling. And then I met him, and I ended up taking a weight training class. I met him in there, and he looked very young and he seemed very young. And I remember when, you know, we exchanged numbers and stuff, and he had told me, I think he had said he was originally 24 years old. And I thought,
Mhm.
okay, not that much older. Okay, that's safe. And then within a few weeks or so, and I already liked him, we're having, constant conversation. He said, okay, look, I have to tell you the truth. I'm really 25, and next week I'm turning 26 or something like that. I'm turning 26, and I was like, you just aged 2 years. Okay. And so within we were together for a year, and then, he ended up turning 27. And I think a lot of that too, I think I ended up struggling with my sexuality a lot. I was very hyperactive. I was very curious.
What do you mean? What do you mean trouble with your sexuality? More shy or reserved, or?
I was shy. My first experience was really horrible. And that happened when I was 16. So I was one of those that I was always like, I'm waiting until I'm married. I'm scared. I'm terrified. I had friends. I was one of those with the group of friends. I said, yeah, did you know it hurts? Did you know this happens when you have sex? We'd read magazines, and I was like, I'm never having sex. Oh my God. I'm terrified. No way. People do this for fun. But at the same time, I was curious about it. So there was this friend. He was in high school, same thing. He ended up trying to pass notes to get my number, and I was just like, who's this guy? I've never seen him. My friend, that same friend, was like, yeah, I know him. Hey, wait a minute, he has a girlfriend, she's in my class, I'm going to ask her. So then she ended up finding out. She's like, no, they're still together. He's wrong. He's in the wrong, and he shouldn't be trying to talk to you. And I said, oh, okay. So I was still curious, though. I ended up hanging out with him a couple times, and he would flatter me. I was very large chested. I would cover it with t-shirts, with sweatshirts, and he would just like, made it clear that that's what, he was attracted to. And then still at the same time, I was like, no, this feels wrong. And at the same time, I was still curious. So I was still kind of like pushing it, playing around with it. I knew it was dangerous, but still. And then by then I was already using and all of that. And I remember just one night, I think my parents were out of town, and so we were going to hang out. And then there was a point where I knew I didn't want to go any further. Basically, he didn't take no for an answer at the end. And I just remember when he was done, the first thing he said was, that wasn't rape, right? I didn't rape you. You know that, right? And I
Oh
was
my
like,
God.
yeah.
Where does
so
that come from?
I told myself that, and I was like, okay, so that wasn't. So I did tell him to stop. I was telling him to get off of me. But I guess, right? And I totally rationalized it for myself. Well, your fault. Well, you shouldn't have asked him over. Well, you shouldn't have been so curious. And then I remember I was talking to my same friend, and she was like, no, that's rape, man. That's rape. And I was like, is it though? Are you sure? Because, when you're young and you see traumatic rape scenes in movies, and you hear about rape, and you just picture like, no, rape is when someone attacks you and then this and that, and they hold you with the gun and all this. And I still felt like, well, I guess I should have or could have done something. So I guess just in turn, I blame myself. And then so after that, and I know some people can go either way. Either they just kind of take off from there, or they become so traumatized by the event. And I did the opposite, unfortunately. I was one of those. And I think that's why I liked meth a lot after that. And I use that to soothe a lot of my feelings, a lot of my thoughts. I was one of those that used it to help me say, well, F it. F it. It's okay. I'm just going to do another line. F it. I'll be all right. I don't need to think about it. Let's just put it away. And I use that a lot. And then on top of it, the drinking. And
So you were drinking by this time also?
yeah, I think, and again, like alcohol, I had the type of father that was like, here, want to sip a beer? Oh, we're going to family met. Oh, it's okay. Have some champagne. It wasn't really frowned upon, to pass your kid a beer and all of that. It's a family event. It's okay. It was a wedding, we're all drinking champagne. And I don't blame them. At first, I know we like to and point the finger and all that stuff. And I'm like, well, I guess they didn't know I was going to be an alcoholic, and they didn't know the dangers of it, and I know I learned from it, and I absolutely would not with my sons. Um, but I truly like the taste of beer. And I just developed, I was like, hey, beer tastes good. And I had people like, ew, beer's nasty, but we got to drink it to get drunk. And I was like,
That's
no,
one of
I
the
do
things
like
I'm lucky about is I was a hardcore alcoholic also, but plus drugs, but
yeah,
I never liked the taste of alcohol. Like I used to, my thing with shots of bourbon or whiskey, I would just hold my breath because you hold your breath, take it down, and you don't taste it as much.
right. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
liquor's disgusting. So is beer.
well, I ended up later on at the end of my, right before I went to recovery, I was on to, big gallons of vodka. So, and I switched to that because beer has nothing but calories and carbs. So you got to switch to vodka. I don't crave vodka anymore, but that's one of the things, I sit back and say, man, I wish I could just have a beer. Have a beer, watch the game, my dad and my brother. I miss that. I enjoy that. I like the way beer tastes and it's all right. So yeah, but with my sexuality, I kind of was like, man, I wanted to wait till I was married. Well, screw it. No reason. It's all gone now. That went down the drain. So I became very sexually active, and I just kind of went from there, and just all kinds of dangerous behavior. Um,
Well,
it's
multiple, just sleeping around basically.
yeah, well, with that boyfriend of mine, the older one, and
Okay.
it's funny, I look back now and I'm like, that was wrong. That was so wrong. And I really feel that he took advantage that I was young. And it's funny because I had used to joke to him because he admitted, he liked younger women. And I used to joke to him and say, watch, when I turn 18, you're gonna break up with me. And I became obsessed with him. It was so unhealthy for me for such a young age to be having like an adult relationship. And it really traumatized me. It was everything about it was unhealthy. It just was so unhealthy. And then I remember when I turned 18, and then a week later he did break up with me.
Wow.
And by then, though, my parents had found out his true age. They found out, all the bad behavior I was doing with him, that I was using, that I was very hyper, sexually active with him, just all kinds of bad behavior. And they forbid me to see him anymore. So of course I was sneaking around, saying I was going to friends, still seeing him. And then he just kind of said, you know what? I'm tired of this. It's never going to work because your family doesn't like me. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of convenient, right after I turned 18. Um, I had even attempted, like when he had first tried breaking up with me, I attempted suicide. I didn't really want to die. I was doing it for attention. I just felt so miserable at that time.
It was a
And
call for help.
yeah. And that's basically what let everything come out. My parents found out everything. And after that, I was just so depressed, so miserable. And I remember the day that he, told me goodbye. And I had just graduated from high school. I had just started a new job, and it was right before I was ready to get ready for work. And he was just like, goodbye. And I was like, huh, this time it didn't affect me, and I felt numb. So there I just was like, well, I guess I'm going to do a line and go to work and forget about this. So it's exactly what I did. Partied so hard with my friends, the same friends, made new friends, and the addiction, it can continue to from there with meth and alcohol and drinking and um, multiple sex partners, just dangerous behavior, not caring about myself, just not caring, just trying to, you know, cover and hide the pain. That's what we use it for, I guess. Well, that was mine.
When you
Yeah.
were so young, how did you afford the drugs?
I always worked.
It was
I always
as
supported my habit. Since I was 16 years old, I always had jobs. Um, I always kept my jobs. I did what I had to do to go to school and keep my jobs. I had really good work ethic, and I always supported my habit. And That doesn't make me better. That doesn't make me worse. I'm not sitting here going, I supported my habits kind of thing, because it's all crap. It doesn't matter how we got them. But I used to tell people that I never slept with someone for drugs. I never, did what I had to do to get them. If I'd run out, crap, gotta wait till I get paid next. Shoot, I never did anything like that. Just to me, that was my train of thought. Like, well, what do you mean? I don't have money. How else am I going to get them? I just never ventured down that. And I remember at one point I quit my job because I said, I know if I don't have a job, I can't afford it, so I won't be using anymore. And then everyone came out of the woodworks, because I was the type of user that if I'm getting high, we're all getting high. Come on, everyone, don't worry, I got it. And I would just, I was just giving, and I'm still that way. I'm giving. If I got some, we all have some. And so all of those friends, when they found out I wasn't working, I wasn't, using, I couldn't use, and I was going crazy, but they would just started showing up everywhere. And we're going to get you high because you used to get us high. You know what? We're going to give you every day, da da da. We got you. And I was like, what? I could have been getting free this whole time. What do you mean? But in the end, it ended up making me feel worse. I really wanted to get help. I was really wanting to get busted. I wanted, my parents to finally draw the line. I had left home when I was 17 to go stay with my brother because of the whole, cutting incident and all that stuff. And I was just like, no, I can't be at home. I can't be around my parents, my family. It's just a mess. And I took off to go be with him. And because he understood me really well. We were really close growing up. And they had it, they were using. And so back and forth. And then they weren't okay with me using. And they'd say, like, you're using a lot. So then I just started hiding it from them. And then eventually when I went back home, I think my parents were just so glad that I went back home that they didn't want to put too many rules on me, because they were afraid that she's just going to leave again. And so I would go to work, party all night, come home sometimes, to shower, to change, to do whatever. I'd hang out, my friends, and still just reckless behavior. And I think I did that for 2 years. And that's when I think my mom found a rock in my pocket because she was doing my laundry, and she was like, I found, your junk in your pocket. I thought you weren't using anymore. And she was like, I'm going to send you to rehab, or you start going to, you need to do something, because if not, you need to leave. And same thing. I started going to meetings, and I remember my first meeting, and I was so terrified. And I just kept telling everyone, no one is like me. I'm the only one that feels these thoughts and gets these feelings in the whole world. I'm special.
Yep. We think
No one can relate.
we all addicts. We think we're the one different. I'm the one, but it's different. I'm not like you guys because of XYZ or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Come up with all the excuses.
Yep. And I just remember shaking. And I remember my mom took me to my first meeting. She was like, I will go with you. And we went and we sat, and of course I wanted to sit in the very back, and everyone's standing up and they're smiling and they're laughing and they're sharing their stories, and they look so strong. And I'm like just shaking and, ready to collapse. And I'm like, they're not addicts. They don't even look like they don't look like me. They're not broken and falling apart. No. What do you mean? See, they're able to go on. Look at them smiling. Why are they smiling? They're not like me. They don't understand. And then I started listening, and then I started hearing the similarities in my stories. And then there was a woman who spoke, and she shared her story, and she was looking around to call on someone, and she saw me in the back because I was one of the few women there. And she's like, do you want to speak? Come on. And I was like, oh my God, I don't even know what to say. And I got up there and I just started bawling and just telling my story, and everyone was like, yes, clapping. And I was like, what? Why are they clapping? I just shared some horrible crap. This is horrible. I'm a horrible person. And she was like, see, you're gonna be okay. Just trust me, it gets better. And I went, sat back down. My mom was like, see, do you feel better? Don't you feel better? And I was like, yeah, I do. You know, I got it out. And these people understood. They didn't judge me. They didn't look at me funny. You know, I shared no foreign words because they had all been through it. And, you know, I finally was like, okay, I'm starting to hear, okay, okay, I'm listening, I'm listening. And within a few weeks, I think I asked that same woman if she would be my sponsor. I still had the desire to use. I ended up still kind of using off and on, back and forth, sneaking around with it. My sponsor ended up relapsing, so that kind of put me back. Um, and then when my parents found out I was using it, my dad just one night he saw I came home late again. He was like, you know what? I told you not to be hanging out with those people. Um, he sat me down and I was crying and crying, and he was like, I know you're using. I want your dealer's name. I want all your friends. I want to know where they live. I want to know everything. And he was yelling at me, and I was crying and crying, and I was just like, no, no, I'm not telling you anything. And he was just like, what do I have to do to get you to stop? What do I have to do and to get you to stop this crap? And I did not have an answer. I didn't know. And I was just so miserable. And I think let me see, it was my 19th birthday, and my friend and I were looking for something to do. And it was funny because when you start to get these feelings and these intuitions of your life and your moments going in slow motion, and we still talk about it today, you know, remember when we got pulled over, remember what happened. We ended up taking a turn we weren't going to take. We were supposed to go this way. We weren't going to do this. We weren't even looking to party. We were so just burnt out. It was my birthday, so we were kind of like, we have to party, I guess. What are we going to do today that we didn't yesterday? We ended up getting pulled over, and I had so much stuff on me. I had alcohol on me. I was using like someone's old ID, and the liquor store guys would just be like, yeah, this isn't you, whatever, here's your alcohol. So I would be the one to buy the alcohol. I was high. We were just drained though. It was late at night, and the cops pulled us over, and she was in her dad's Trans Am, which was just like this target to be pulled over. She had a Mohawk. So she told me, two chicks driving around with the Mohawk, we're not going to get pulled over. We got pulled over so many times and never got searched. But the neighborhood we were in, they found the alcohol on us. I had a pipe on me. I had a pipe in my center console. I had drugs on me in my pocket, everywhere. It was just like a mess, like just carelessness. And just when you looked at the situation, it was just, wow, how comfortable was I? Just crap everywhere. And the guy pulled us over, and he was like, well, whose is it? Come on, whose is this? Wow, whose is this? Holding a pipe. And my friend didn't say anything. She was just quiet. And I was like, I gotta take the fault. This is all my fault. This is my crap. She's a weed smoker. She drinks. This isn't her thing. This is mine. And I was like, me, okay, it's mine. It's mine. And I remember they took me in and they let her go. And they said, you know, we're doing this thing right now where you give 3 names and we'll let you go, and something else or other. And I was just like, I don't know. I don't know anyone. And they were like trying to get names from me. And so at one point, I was kind of like trying to feed them information without getting them information. I was like, no, no, no. They don't trust me. They contact me. They just message me on my pager. They just ask me when, you know, when I want it and this and that. I don't know them. I just know them by first name. So he'd get out his pen and start to write, and then he'd scribble and get mad at me. Like, she's going to get, no, she's not. She's going to, no, she's not. And he's like, okay, we're not going anywhere with this. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take you home, and I'm going to check up on you in a week. I want to go see where you live. I want to go. And my parents are out of town. So they go knock in. My sister was there, but she didn't answer. Thank God. And then so he was like, I know where you live. I'm going to come finding you. Don't hide from me because I'll find you. And so I was terrified after that. So the next day, I grabbed some stuff and I left. I was terrified because he started looking for me. He was calling me. He was I saw them show up at my work. I was hiding and I was like, oh my God, the cops are looking for me. So then I knew nothing about the law, how it works, anything going on. And I started talking to people and they were like, that's harassment. They can't do that to you. If they're going to charge you, they should charge you and take you in. If not, just take it, do whatever you're going to do. And they're now following you and this and that. And I was so terrified. So finally they sent out a warrant for my arrest and said, you got to appear in court, this and that. I went, I was supposed to do my classes, all that thing. I signed up wanting to go, thinking I was going to go. By the time I was living on the street. And I ended up staying with my first son's father, who was also 10 years older than me at the time.
Like
So
him older than you, huh?
this sets the pattern.
Yes, I say, yeah.
Yeah. So after that, basically, same thing, screwed it off, didn't care. My grandfather was getting sick and it was weird. Again, I had another intuition and I was like, I'm doing nothing good with my life. I'm still using, I'm on the street, I'm not doing crap. And I wanted help. Every time I was using and I got deep into it, in the back of my mind, I said, why did you start using again? You're not going to feel good. You're going to get to this point. You feel like crap. Look at you. Now you're addicted, you're stuck, you're miserable. And I would sit there and I would constantly talk to God, constantly. And I know a lot of people, they don't get connected with their higher power until something like this happens. But I've always been connected since I was a kid. I always knew there was something above there. Always knew there was someone I was talking to. I just didn't know who or what. But I would sit there and ask, and I'd say, God, just help me out of this. I'm miserable. And remember, I was very promiscuous, very unprotected sex, very dangerous. I never once got a pregnancy scare. So when my grandfather was getting sick and he was on his deathbed, I knew, and I said, crap, he's gotta pass away and I'm gonna get pregnant. Watch. I already know. And sure enough, and I just remember and I say, you know what, when things are meant to happen and these cycles that happen and these things in our life, these life-changing moments that we have. And when I went to take that pregnancy test, it's one of those back in the day, it's supposed to take 3 minutes. And when that thing just turned to a plus and I said, hey, where's my 3 minutes? Really? Just like that, huh? Thanks. I can't even sweat a little. I knew I was pregnant. I knew I was going to have a boy. I just knew all of this. And I was like, my grandfather knows I'm not doing crap right now. He knows I'm not doing anything. And he wants me, to have some life-changing moment. And I did. I ended up having to go to jail because I messed around with my classes. So I went in 2.5 months pregnant. I got out, I was 5.5 months pregnant. So my belly was popping out. And
So you were in jail for a few months while pregnant.
Yeah. So all because of that getting pulled over, which didn't catch up to me till, the year later. And the girl I was with, she's actually my partner today. So we ended up, I've known her since I was 18. I met her the week after I graduated from high school. And we had a small fallout. We were in each other's lives, in and out, in and out. She always liked women. I always knew I liked both. And I just, I had never been in a real woman relationship. And we were always just good friends. And I told her, if anything, I only looked at you as a friend. I always respected our friendship. And, she was just a really good friend to me. And she was there at those life-changing moments. And I tell her, she was the first one to tell me, because everyone was telling me, don't keep the baby, you're using, have an abortion. No, you're going to regret it. No, including his father. And I was just like, man, I guess I'm going to have an abortion. I guess I can't keep it. And then she came over one day and I was like, yeah, I'm pregnant. I guess I'm not going to keep it. Everyone's telling me I can't keep it and this and that. And she was like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, what do you mean? It doesn't matter. I can't have it. I've been using and I'm not clean and, right. And she was like, no, but what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I really wanted to keep it. And she was like, so keep it. Like, you're just like, she would always say things in black and white. And it would just, because it was coming from her, I just took it, different. And I was like, yeah, you know what? You're right. You're right. And so I'm life-changing moments, I ended up, having him, and it was the greatest thing for me at the time. And ended up staying clean for a few years, ended up leaving the father, of course. We haven't been together since I was pregnant. I ended up moving to Reno, back and forth, back and forth. Sometimes I'd be clean for short periods of time, back again. I was always drinking. I wasn't into hard drinking yet anymore, I mean. And then I think when I moved to Reno to stay, and my son was 7, 8 years old, and then I ended up meeting a man. And at that time, I wasn't drinking. I stopped using because of him, because he wasn't using meth. He was just what I thought a mild drinker. Um, and then I ended up finding out slowly that he was like a major alcoholic, and he had a long history, and he was almost about 9 years older than me. So here we go again. I ended up marrying him 8 years later. And at that point, I was already on like almost my third DUI. I got pregnant. I had my second son, and I think my second son was like 4 or 5 when we got married. And within, let me see, we got married in March, and then in August, I got my last DUI. And at that point, again, I was begging, crying to God, help me do something. Is this my life? I drink Thursday through Monday, sometimes Tuesday. It just got longer and longer and heavier and heavier. And I switched to vodka by that time. We were fighting. It was chaos. It wasn't, the dream, the happy thing it was supposed to be. I just got married, and I should have been the happiest of my life. And I was the most miserable in my life. And because I wasn't happy with who I was, and I just hated that, I just was drinking all the time. So at that point, I thought, okay, I'm going to have to stop because I'm going to go to court soon. And then that's when I realized I couldn't stop. And I was down to the shakes, to the feeling sick, the crying spells. I could not stop. And so I told a friend of mine, and I said, I want to stop, but I can't. I can't stop thinking about my next drink. And she said, look, go to this doctor. She's in our network. Tell her I sent you. You tell her exactly what you just told me. And I went and talked to her, and she wrote me a prescription for citalopram and said, I'm going to put you on a small dose, and I want you to start some counseling, and I want to check in with you and all this. And talk about feeling happy and numb. That drug should be illegal because it made me so numb. I could not stop telling people how happy I was. That's how bad it was. It was really strong for me. I was like, I'm just so happy. I just feel so good. I just feel so perfect. And everyone was like, okay, yesterday you were miserable. What happened? And I was like, I don't know. I just feel like everything's perfect. And so finally, when I went to court, the citalopram that they had me on, I ended up stopping it about a week before, because it started giving me side effects, and I started getting ulcer attacks, and it was no longer making me just feel good. So I quit it cold turkey. I know you're not supposed to. That's bad advice. You should wean off of it. And I was told that, you really shouldn't do that. That's dangerous. And I said, I can't take any more of these ulcer attacks are excruciating. So when I went to court, I remember still not thinking that I was an alcoholic. I knew I had a problem, but I wasn't an alcoholic. Alcoholics are those homeless people on the street that ask for money for their alcohol. That was me and my mentality. I still thought that. And the judge, I remember when it was my turn to go, and he said, I don't mean to embarrass you, but do you think you might be an alcoholic? And I remember just like, oh, how dare him? And I said, well, maybe, yeah, now I guess, I don't know. And he was like, okay. And he said, look, I'm not going to send you to jail. I'm not going to slap you with all these fines. I'm not going to send you community service. I'm going to sentence you to a year or more for our drug and alcohol court. want you to come back and I want you to see what it's about. It's a strict program and you need help. I'm going to make sure that I help you. And I was just same thing, crying a mess. I was miserable. And I think, and it was in Reno, Nevada. So mind you, when I tell people, yeah, I sobered up in Reno, and they say, really? What? A 24-hour city? How? Isn't that harder? Their program is excellent. It was like a crash course. The type of person I am, I'm a dive in head first kind of person. I want to see that light at the end of the tunnel. I know there's light at the end of the tunnel, so I'm just going to dive in head first. And I did it. I gave it my all. I wanted to feel better fast. And I was going to counseling twice a week, group. I had to go to my AA meetings. And we had to check in with our drug court once a month. And then I also had to check in with the sheriff's team, and they'd sit and do a one-on-one with you. Sometimes the judge would come out and talk to us personally. They want to know how we were doing. And that was the most excruciating year of my entire life and the most traumatizing year of my entire life. And well, second. But I tell everyone, you know, it felt so good to feel for the first time in years. I was feeling feelings. I was able to cry and feel that it was a natural feeling. I wasn't crying because I was drowning myself in my vodka and just drinking to cry. I knew what I was crying for. I knew where the pain came from. And I was finally given the tools to now work on those problems and having the group and the support. And it felt so good, so good. And I just felt like I was just like a little kid. I felt so immature. And then when I would talk to people, they would tell me that. They'd say, you know, you have a really immature way of thinking. And then I remember going to a meeting and someone saying, yeah, did you know we stop aging and maturing while we're drinking and using? And then I'd start telling people, well, that's why I'm 18 still. That's why I still feel like a kid, you know?
Mhm.
And it's true even to this day. And my partner, she's just starting to go through it. And she tells me, you know, I feel like so immature next to you. And I said, you know, how many years it took me to get here? You know how long it took me? It doesn't happen overnight. You know, all you need to know is that it gets better. And you just got to keep putting one foot in front of the other. Um, that was like the best. And I encourage rehab programs. I encourage AA, NA, for everything. I know there's, you know, a group for everything. Counseling. I love counseling. I was in a relationship before, and I advised my partner, you know, maybe you should get some counseling for this. And oh, well, maybe you should too. Why don't you go with me? And I was like, don't threaten me with a good time. Let's do this. I love counseling. This is a walk in the park for me. I love talking about my feelings today. You know, I'm just so vocal. And with my partner today, I tell her all the time, and I say to myself, you know, we think that it should be easier for us because we know exactly what they're going through. But at the same time, that makes it harder, you know, because you know what they're going through. And I'm trying my best, and I'm trying to tell myself, you know, what did you need in that first year of your recovery? Because my husband, he didn't give it to me. He started to. He said, okay, yeah, I can stop drinking too. Yeah, sure, sure. And he'd always hit a 3-month point where he would just go back out, and he would turn it on me. He'd be resentful. Well, you were the one with the DUI, not me. Well, why should I have to stop drinking? I'm not the one with the problem. And it was so hard to hear my counselors and everyone advise me, because I was trying to say, no, we can make it work. I just got married. You know, I'm in love with him. This is my partner. We can make it work. I'll be fine. You know, whether he has that beard accent, I'll be okay. And everyone was like, are you listening to yourself? And I look back and I think, man, they must have thought I was pretty insane. Wanted to shake me. And I was in such denial, thinking that I would be safe still being with an alcoholic, even though I was an alcoholic. And then I think he moved back out. I had asked him to leave, and I said, yeah, you can't be here. I can't have this. This is, you know, this is very triggering. I can't have it. So he went back to his place and, you know, stayed there alone. And then we tried making it work from a distance. And then I remember one day when he gave me a ride home and he said, "Well, what are you going to go do right now?" And I joked and I said, "I'm going to go have a beer and watch the game," like being sarcastic because I knew that's what he was going to do. And he said, "Psh, what? You better not without me." And that's when it dawned on me that he didn't give a crap about my recovery. He didn't give a crap about my sobriety. It was just as long as he was there if I was drinking. He didn't respect me or who I was in my recovery. And I remember I went to Al-Anon because my counselor said, "Al-Anon, Al-Anon, Al-Anon, you need to go." And I went on my lunchtime from work. Everything was right around the corner. I was on foot at this point because I had no license, nothing. I was on foot or on bicycle, and I got all around to all my classes, everything by foot or bike. And I remember my first Al-Anon women meeting, and there was these tough, strong-looking women in that meeting. And again, I was sitting there feeble, like, oh my God, what am I going to hear? What are they going to tell me? They're going to tell me the same thing, that my marriage isn't going to work. And at the end of the meeting, a lady said, "Hey, you're new. Let me get you a little starters packet." And I said, "Okay." And I just wanted to take it and run because I didn't hear anything traumatizing yet. And she said, "No, no, no. Let me tell you what's in the packet. So you have this pamphlet." And she said, "Oh, and then this is my favorite. It's called Letter to an Alcoholic." And I said, "Oh, okay, great. Let go, lady." And she said, "Come on, let's read it together." And I said, "Oh, okay." And she started reading it. And I just started crying and crying. And that's when another epiphany and a realization hit that this marriage isn't going to work. My marriage is over. And I was just so upset. And I just started crying. And she didn't hold back. She put her arm around me and said, "Okay, anyways, let me continue." She kept reading. And it was another great thing that happened to me. It was a great moment. And I walked out of there crying, and she said, "Keep coming, keep coming. You're gonna be okay. That's why all of us are here. You're gonna be okay." And I knew it wasn't gonna work. So I began filing for divorce. And then I started planning to move back to the Bay Area, which is where all my family is. And I said, you know what, it's time to go back. It's time to go back and heal all of the damage that I did with my family. It's time to repair all of those burnt bridges, all of the bad things I did, everything. You know, I had to go back. And then I had my two sons, and I was taking care of my niece at the same time, and I needed help. And one thing that AA, NA, all of the organizations counseling has taught me is don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to say, "I can't do this alone." Don't be afraid to look out and get to those resources because there's so many today. There's so many. And I think that's why, again, it's hard for me with my partner because I see me and her. And she's one of those. I mean, we're friends for a reason. We've been friends this long for a reason. She's one of those tough women that I can do it myself. So I get it. And I get it. And I just sit there and go, okay, all right, we'll see. Not to be, smug or anything like that. I tell her, even with me, don't be afraid to ask me for help. I can still help you. I'm your partner, but I
Yeah.
can get the answer or put you in the right direction or give you some advice or tell you what I think. And I think it's hard because she's dealing with a lot of her past, where for me, I automatically take things personal, and I feel like it reflects me. And I constantly have to remind myself it has nothing to do with me. This is her. This is her recovery. This is her healing that she needs to do. And I can't get offended. She's trusting me with her words. So I can't sit there. And a lot of times I'm just like, bite your tongue, bite your tongue, bite your tongue. Release it later. You can scream later. And I think my natural thing, a natural personality trait of mine, is I want to help people. I've always enjoyed helping people, and I've always wanted to help her. She has a lot of traumas, and I want to fix people. I want to fix it for them. And I know how to do this. I know how to do that. So I have to also remind myself every day everyone is not like you. We're not all the same. Just because you took this path and just because you may have the same traumas, it doesn't mean you're going to heal the same way. It doesn't mean they have to follow your path, 100%. Some things work for others and some don't. So I try my best, to offer her and tell her, I still know some people in AA, I can try. What about getting a sponsor? And she's just like, no, I don't want to tell people my business. I try to stress the anonymity and the privacy that it should have. And I just tell myself, you know what, just be there for her. Just do your part and just be there if she needs the help and stuff. So that's where I'm at right now. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. Thank you very much for sharing. It was some story you have there.
It's
How
still
do you
going.
feel? How do you feel? You feel better getting it out one more time?
Yeah. You know what? One thing, I feel like I'm starting from scratch a little bit. I know in the program, we like to tell people, you know what, worry about yourself, look in the mirror. Cause when you're doing this, you're just pointing back, anything that take the eye off of you, anything that take away from you having to work on yourself. So as much as I could tell my partner, you need to work on yourself, you need to do counseling and stuff. I have, a lot of trauma from losing my son in 2020. And I know I need to do counseling. I know there's a point where I need to take it back to basics, and to start my healing all over again. So I think she was the good excuse that I used to hide and run from it. You all need to fix yourselves. You all need to,
Yep.
because then I don't have to. But I think what it was she said, we were doing this little questionnaire one night to try to help us communicate better. And one of the questions was, what do I do to make you feel loved, to show you that, I love you? And she said, you pay for my bills, you buy me things. And I was like, wait, no, not materialistic. It's asking like, what do I do to show you I love you? And she's like, I don't know, stuff. I can't think about it right now. And I was like, and then that was a big wake up call. And then the second thing was, what do I do to make you uncomfortable and make you feel unsafe? And she's like, well, when you yell, it makes me feel bad and I want to run because I don't want to be in a relationship like that anymore. And that was another huge light bulb. And I said, man, this, since my son passed away, I've been walking around like a huge major asshole and excusing myself, silent treatment, not talking to people, not dealing with it, just laying down and crying, avoiding it. And I was taking it out on other people. So recently when, we started kind of sharing deeper about how we really felt about each other. And she was like, well, I love you, but I'm not head over heels in love with you. And that hurt my feelings so badly. And because it was the truth. And then again, I had to look in the mirror and I said, crap, well, who the hell would be in love with someone like me? Because we got together after my son passed away. And she knew me before that. We used to work out together. We were good friends. I was a strong woman, this strong, secure woman, comfortable in my skin. I was active. I had projects. I did a million things at once. And I was just happy, like laughing, enjoying life. And when my son's passing hit, I did a complete just 180. I just feel lost and don't know who I am anymore. And I said, well, you know what? I don't blame you. Like, what are you supposed to be in love with? This miserable person walking around miserable all day, laying around and crying. And so I'm looking back to like self therapy, projects, online, things like this, trying to heal myself, trying to dive in. And I didn't think I'd be able to speak like this right now. So this is huge for me. So thank you. And everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, you did a great job.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. I feel good.
That's good. I think that's a good place to wrap it up. My last question that I ask everyone before we actually wrap it up, I should say, do you have any advice that you would give people to listening and watching?
Don't give up. Don't ever give up. And it gets better. It always gets better. If it didn't, then people like me wouldn't exist. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. Crying never killed anyone. Feelings never killed or hurt anyone. We were meant to have feelings. We were placed on this earth for lessons and feelings. And don't ever give up. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Reach out, get a great support system, and go from there. If you don't have friends, there's plenty of us out there looking. We're out there. We're here. We're here.
All right, great. So everyone that's listening or watching, if you like what you heard or saw, go below and give us a like. Also subscribe to see when we upload new interviews. Also check us out on Reddit, Twitter, Instagram. I always tell people check out our Facebook group. That is where you could find under the events tab. It'll show you that we do our nightly Zoom meeting at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time every night. And also check out our website, which has been redesigned, which is addicts-anonymous.com. There you can find literature and a bunch of resources available. So that's all we have for today. And until next time.